step to the side here, you got this little side marker light. You want to make sure that you grab that quick. Same thing, probably mounted secured, not broken, cracked, damaged, not missing any nuts and bolts. That's proper colors, fully functional. He does break down the colors one by one, but you notice those are amber, these are clear, right? So I say proper color. It's up to you whether you want to try to name the colors one by one, but if you mess up, you're not going to get the point for that light.
Coolant reservoir.
Yeah, this is my coolant reservoir. Properly mounted and secured, not broken, cracked, or damaged. The cap is present and on tight. It's not leaking and it's not missing any nuts and bolts. Hardware, right? All my hoses. The paper that you guys have with, I think it's like 3 or 4 pages stapled together. Not the Bible, okay? Please do not follow it to a T. It is a study guide. Exactly that. It is a guide. So when it says general hoses, I'm going to know right away when I'm testing you guys whether or not you're just regurgitating what you read off that paper. If you stand here and go, my general hoses. Don't say my general hoses. All my hoses. Properly mounted and secured, not broken, cracked, or damaged, not cut, cracked, or frayed. Now, why do I say both? I said broken, cracked, damaged, and I said cut, cracked, or frayed.
You got some metal.
And metal.
Yeah.
Right. Now, I also want you to remember. You see this tube right there?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're gonna look like Men in Black when he gets his fingerprints cut off. Right. Touch that on a hot bed. All right. So if this truck drove all the way to North Augusta for the test, for your test, you grab a hold of that, you're gonna know all about it. Okay. So just point, don't touch. All right. All my hoses are properly mounted and secured from end to end. Not cut, cracked, or frayed, not been broken, cracked, damaged, and not missing any hardware. Now I can't say nuts and bolts here because it's more than just nuts and bolts, right? It's band clamps, and, all pressure plates and all that. So I'm going to say hardware, right? Nothing else here.
That's it?
Yeah.
Damn, that's it on that side?
Just the coolant reservoir and all the
And all the hoses?
There really ain't nothing over here.
Start this back up. Everybody stay with me. I'm going to turn that way.
Hot stand reservoir. Air linkage.
Right on this side, again, start at the top, work your way down. So the top thing I'm going to see, my oil dipstick. Oh snap, look at that, it's got a mount, right? So I'm going to say it's properly mounted and secured, not missing any nuts and bolts. Cap is present and on tight. If I was to check it, I would pull it out, wipe it off, reinsert it, pull it out again, and check to make sure that the fluid level is between the add and the full. Okay? Not add and fill. If you say fill, that just means the same thing as add, doesn't it?
Yep.
Right? It's between add and full. It should be somewhere in the happy medium between the two. And then I would reinsert it. All of my hoses are properly mounted and secured, not broken, cracked, or damaged, not cut, cracked, or frayed. They are secure from end to end, not missing any nuts and bolts, and I don't see or hear no leaks. Don't talk to me like that. My power steering reservoir is properly mounted and secured, not missing any nuts and bolts. Both caps are present and on tight. It is filled to its proper level. It is not leaking. My power steering hose, not cut, cracked, or frayed. It is secure from end to end. It is not missing any nuts and bolts, and it is not leaking, or hardware, and it's not leaking. Down here, I've got my power steering gearbox. My power steering gearbox is properly mounted and secured, not broken, cracked, or damaged because it's made of metal. It is not missing any hardware, and it is not leaking. The fluid goes to it, so you have to say it's not leaking.
Yeah.
Right below that, I've got my steering linkage. Okay, you no longer have to break those down piece by piece. It's all one piece. The steering linkage is properly mounted and secured, not broken, cracked, or damaged, not
Castle
bent
nut.
or broken in anywhere. None of my sockets are broken or loose or leaking. And I have 3 castle nuts and 3 cotter keys. Now, this is a castle nut right here. Everybody come take a look. at what
It
I'm
looks like
doing.
a castle.
Right? It looks like the top of a castle tower. That's why it's called that. Why is it cut like that?
So it doesn't come loose when you put the cotter pin in and keep it
Right,
there.
because there's a hole drilled in the middle of that stud. You got to put that cotter pin in and hold it and open it up to hold everything in place. If you're missing a cotter key, get it replaced, because if this castle nut rattles loose, you lose your steering. Okay? I have 3 castle nuts and 3 cotter keys that are present and in place. My brake line is properly mounted and secured from end to end. It is not cut, cracked, frayed, or leaking, and it is not missing any hardware, because it has hardware in one spot, 2 spots. Okay? Anybody tell me what that is?
That's the leaf spring mount.
My spring mount, front and rear. Properly mounted and secured, not broken, cracked, or damaged, not missing any nuts and bolts. My leaf spring, that long thing that goes from front to back. They are properly mounted and secured, not broken, cracked, or damaged, not missing, and not shifted, okay? So they should be perfectly on top of each other. If they're slid to one side or crooked or whatever, just as the Chinamen say, something wrong, get it looked at.
And you said this right here is the leaf mount,
That's the spring mount.
the spring mount, the leaf
Front
spring
one
mount.
and the back one back there.
Right there, I see it.
Yep.
And that's the front spring mount. All right.
Yep, perfect. Okay. My shock absorber is properly mounted and secured, not broken, cracked, or damaged. It is not missing any hardware, and it is not leaking, because that has fluid inside it, because it is just a hydraulic shock, right? My brake chamber and my brake chamber clamp. Okay, the brake chamber looks like, the whole brake chamber in and of itself looks like a hamburger, right? Well, the meat inside the hamburger, that's your clamp. All right? They both need to be in good shape. So we're going to say my brake chamber and my brake chamber clamp are properly mounted and secured, not broken, cracked, or damaged, not missing any nuts and bolts, and it's not leaking, right? Because I see air running to it. If I see air running to it, I am to assume that it could leak.
Right.
Okay? Now we go inside the wheel. My brake drum, which is the big thing on the outside, my brake drum and my brake drum lining, which is literally just your brake pads, but they call them linings in the big boy toys, are properly mounted and secured, not broken, cracked, or damaged. There are no holes in my brake drum, and my brake drum lining is not worn dangerously thin. And there is no grease, dirt, or debris between my brake lining and my brake drum.
All right, hold on. Can I this is the drum, this is the line.
Yes, sir.
All right, there we go.
All right. So I'm going to come out here, and I'm going to instantly put my hand just like this. Okay? This is my steer tire. It is properly worn, and there is no less than 4/30 seconds of tread depth in all major grooves. And if I had a tread depth gauge, I would check it for you. I'm going to stop right there, and I'm going to turn, and I'm going to say the rest of my tires are no less than 2/30 seconds of tread depth. Then you can continue. My outer wall, ABC, there are no abrasions, bulges, or cuts. Okay? Down to your rim. My rim is properly mounted and secured, not broken, cracked, or damaged. There are no illegal welds, and my bolt holes are not elongated, right? So there's going to be 10 holes drilled in this rim for these bolts to come through. If those are elongated, something wrong. It's an issue that has to be replaced, okay? You can't shim it, you can't weld it, has to be replaced, okay? From there, I'm gonna go right to my lug nuts. My lug nuts, all 10 are properly mounted and secured and present. Present is important. They are not broken, cracked, or damaged, and there is no shiny threads or rust streaks coming from behind that would indicate looseness. Okay, so if one of these were loose, right, it's the same thing as if I was buffing metal, right? So if you decided you wanted to buff your rims out and make them shiny, it's going to be friction that does that. Okay, so it's the same concept. If this is loose and it's traveling back and forth on those threads, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, it's going to make shiny threads. Okay, and then if it was loose, there would be a gap between the back of it and the rim itself. Water would get in there. Water plus metal equals rust. So you would see little streaks of rust coming out from behind. It would look like little tears. Okay? So then, the only thing you got left to do is to make sure you find your valve stem, which in this case is down here. My valve stem is It's properly mounted and secured, not broken, cracked, or damaged, not leaking, and it is not missing any nuts and bolts. Why would I say nuts and bolts on the valve stem?
Because it's got a bolt on it.
Because there is a nut that
Yeah.
bolts to the rim, okay? And my valve stem cap is on tight and secure, and if I had DOT gauge, I would check it for you. Now, at this very point, what I like to do is train myself to be as close to the truck as possible. Not that I'm really worried about it, but because I'm short, okay? I can't hit my head on it, but I'm still gonna think about it being there and make sure I don't hit my head on it. No, I didn't forget it.
I'm gonna hit my head on it, yeah.
So if I'm worried about hitting my head on it, I'm not gonna forget it, right? This is my traffic monitoring device mount or mirror mount. It is properly mounted and secured, not broken, cracked, or damaged, not missing any nuts and bolts. Okay? This is my fuel tank and my depth tank. Both are properly mounted and secured, not broken, cracked, or damaged. Both caps are present and on tight, and they are not leaking. From here, I'm going to go right to the back of the tractor. There's a reflective tape here. My reflective tape is clean, present, and of proper color. That's all you got to say about reflective tape. While I'm talking about reflective tape, I'm going to talk about the reflective tape that's down inside of my trailer. That is clean, present, of proper color, and it covers at least 50% of my trailer. Look at that. I just knocked those two simple things out in one. All right? Now I'm going to go right here. These are my airlines. They are properly mounted and secured from end to end. They are not cut, cracked, frayed, or leaking. And they are not tangled, and they're not hanging dangerously low to my catwalk. This is my electrical line. My electrical line is properly mounted and secured from end to end. It is not cut, cracked, frayed, or spliced. Now the reason I say spliced is this is all just a big cluster of electrical lines. If the electrical lines are cut for any reason, lazy, cheap people like to try to splice them back together by themselves. What happens then? You're going to see a bunch of electrical tape, big old cluster of wires hanging out, and when you turn your left signal on, you might hit your brakes. Who knows? Just functions don't work right because people don't know how to wire. Okay, so if you ever see electrical tape on these, get it replaced. Okay? It is not cut, cracked, frayed, or spliced, and it is not hanging dangerously low to my catwalk. These are my glad hands. They are properly mounted and secured, not broken, cracked, or damaged, not missing any nuts and bolts, and they are properly seated in their positions and not leaking. Good? Good. Okay. This is my tractor frame. This is my trailer frame. Both are properly mounted and secured, not broken, cracked, or damaged, not missing any nuts and bolts because I can see hardware on both ends. And there are no illegal welds or drill holes. Okay? If you start drilling on a frame, you better know what you're doing. And you better have it approved by a DOT shop. Because if not, they're going to shut your truck down because you now weakened your frame. And it can't hold the weight that it should.
That's called a tractor frame.
This is the tractor frame because it's connected to my tractor. Right? Trailer frame is this piece that runs all the way down with all these studs here.
Now, what is it that'll weaken it? That'll weaken
Welds
the frame?
and drill holes.
Okay, if you have any illegal welds or drill holes, then
It
that'll
can weaken your frame.
and
It
they'll
can
put
weaken
you out
your-
of service.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. Because you could break your frame in half going down the highway. Especially if you put a heavy load in the trailer. Okay, this is my batteries. You do not have to open these. If you can remember the language, you do not have to open it, but it helps to see it. All right? They're properly mounted and secured, not missing any nuts and bolts. My lines are not cut, cracked, or frayed. There is no corrosion anywhere to be seen. They are not leaking. Everything is present and on tight. Make sure you relatch this or else you'll lose that on the highway when you go out driving.
Yeah.
Okay? From here, I'm going to step back and look up. My clearance light, properly mounted and secured, not broken, cracked, or damaged, not missing any nuts and bolts. It is in proper color, and it is fully functional. Now we get into the fun stuff. This is my trailer apron. My trailer apron is properly mounted and secured, not broken, cracked, or damaged, and it is properly seated on my skid plate. Exactly. It's properly seated on my skid plate where there is no gap between my, what is this?
Apron.
My apron and my skid plate, exactly. Since I'm talking about my skid plate is properly mounted and secured, not broken, cracked, or damaged, not missing any hardware, and it is properly greased, because that needs to be hella greased, right? Attached right to it is my release arm. My release arm is properly mounted and secured, not broken, cracked, or damaged, not missing any nuts and bolts, and it is in its properly locked position. How would you know if it wasn't?
If you pull out.
If it pulled out, exactly. Right below that is my mount. My mount is properly mounted and secured, not broken, cracked, or damaged, not missing any nuts and bolts. Right below that is my platform. Okay, my platform is properly mounted and secured, not broken, cracked, or damaged, not missing any nuts and bolts. And the way I teach is right after you talked about that platform, step back and say, and my fifth wheel is in the proper position where my tires will not interfere with my landing gear during a turn. Okay? At that point, you can go underneath here. Inside there, I see my locking jaws. My locking jaws are properly mounted and secured, not broken, cracked, or damaged, not missing any hardware that I can tell, and they are properly locked around my kingpin. Since I'm talking about my kingpin, that is also properly mounted and secured, not broken, cracked, or damaged, and it is not missing. Now I'm going to move down to my lights. Okay? My lights back here, my lenses are properly mounted and secured, not broken, cracked, or damaged, not missing any hardware. They are of proper color and fully functional. My airbags are properly mounted and secured, not cut, cracked, frayed, or dry rotted, and they are not leaking. My airbag mounts are properly mounted and secured, not broken, cracked, or damaged, not missing any hardware. They are fully functional. Over here, I've got some reflective tape. My reflective tape is clean, of proper color, and present. I'm going to turn around here. My landing gear is properly mounted and secured, not broken, cracked, or damaged, not missing any nuts or bolts. We're going to move out. My landing gear pads are properly mounted and secured, not broken, cracked, or damaged, not missing any hardware, and it is in its properly raised position. My landing gear crank arm, properly mounted and secured, not broken, cracked, or damaged, not missing any hardware, and it's in its properly stowed position. My side lens, properly mounted and secured, not broken, cracked, or damaged, not missing any nuts and bolts. It is proper in color and fully functional. My tandem release button. Has everybody seen the tandem release button?
Point at it again.
Hey guys,
What you said that was again?
side lens.
Side lens.
Just generalize it, okay? Don't try to name it. My tandem release button. Have you seen it?
Say tandem release.
Tandem release button. Have you seen it?
Yeah, I see it.
Okay. Because I get a lot of students that'll point at this big ass green hole. We call that their release button. Tandem release button is up here. That is properly mounted and secured, not broken, cracked, or damaged, not missing any nuts and bolts. I see air lines running to it, so I have to assume that it could leak, so it's not leaking, and it is in its locked position. If it was not in its locked position, it would be popped out like that.
Okay.
Tandem release.
Tandem release button.
Like a little 50-cent piece right there.
Yeah. A little,
Now,
yeah, a little metal piece.
my tandem locking pins. I have 4 of them, 2 on each side, 2 on this side, 2 on the opposite side. My tandem release pins are properly mounted and secured, not broken, cracked, or damaged, not missing any nuts and bolts, and they are in their locked position. Okay? If they are sucked in past that hole, then they are not in their locked position, and these tandems can slide. Say all 4. Alright? My ABS light and my side marker light are both properly mounted and secured, not broken, cracked, or damaged, not missing any nuts and bolts, proper in color and fully functional. And back here, all you got to do is the magic hands. All my lenses back here are properly mounted and secured, not broken, cracked, or damaged, not missing any nuts and bolts. They are proper in color and fully functional. And I've got some reflective tape, so that is present, clean, and of proper color. Examiner, how much time do I have left? They're going to tell you, and then you can walk back up the side of the truck to see if you forgot anything. Okay?
Man, 20 minutes.
That's it.
That's it.